about brain plasticity. Now, I want to take this on another level. I want to take this further than we've all understood it. Now, we've had great insights into this. The brain can change. Wonderful books. Norman Doidge has done The Brain That Changes Itself. We've seen some fabulous TV programs expounding how new synaptic connections and even new neurons can be created in the brain. And this is absolutely true, and this is absolutely what it's all about. But brain plasticity is more than that. And I want to talk about two things important in brain plasticity that are really important in the nature of where we can take this to the next level. And the first one is getting rid of negative associations, and the second one is making bits of the brain come together, brain plasticity of connection. Now, the first one is we have the capacity, and our brains are evolved, and we have it in our genes, that we can actually change our thinking. We can actually change the way we associate our negative thoughts and our positive thoughts and our optimistic thoughts and any thoughts whatsoever. But the ones that we want to change are the ones that hold us back, are the ones that stop us moving forward, are the ones that we call the negative inner voice or the restrictive voice, or all those sorts of different types of talking and different types of voices and different types of negative imprinting. Gosh, there's so many terms that are about this. But all it means is that the brain will remember stuff that it thinks it is necessary in order to make life better for you, because what happened to you today might happen tomorrow. And it will remember that until the world changes, until it's convinced that the world changes. Not just one thing, but a whole bunch of things. So one of the ways in which I've tried to make a contribution to this is through our affirmation series. You certainly can go in and use that to work through a series of processes of reframing the way your attitude is towards yourself and the way your attitude is towards your past. And when we mean by attitude, we mean brain connections. So that's a really important and powerful thing that you can do to change that negative inner voice, that negative imprinting. The other thing which is really important is the stuff that you haven't thought of before. The things that are what we call insights, those moments when you just go, oh, yeah. Now, that is when whole areas of the brain, various different areas of the brain, of your thoughts, of your knowledge, of your experience, of your feelings, all these are in a flash brought together and firmly connected through lots of technical neurological stuff into an entirely new realization, and that's called an insight. An insight is about connection. And what's really fascinating is just before an insight occurs, there's a burst of a really high frequency wave called gamma frequency in the brain. And it's kind of like in the brain, all the way through the brain. And these different areas, the neurons between them and the synaptic connections between them suddenly become very strong and powerful. And they become connected and they stay connected. You know how sometimes it takes a long time to learn things? But when you've had an insight, when you've had the penny drop, when you've had that light bulb moment, you never forget it. It never goes. That stays permanently. So insight is something that requires your brain to be open, and open to connections between yourself and also between those things around you. So it needs to be in a creative state. And without really going into the detail right now, because you'll be able to find some of this, and we're doing a 12-week program on this, it's really sponsored by your curiosity. And when you are in a curious frame of mind, when you maintain that sense of wonder, that sense of the extraordinary, that sense of the possible, then that is the moment that a chance event, a chance thing, a chip paper rolling across the ground can actually trigger that bit of insight, that connection of thoughts. And this, you might have seen, was done regularly in that program House, the Dr. House, and he was a grumpy doctor who was very clever. And he'd be struggling to find what the answer was. And he'd be sitting there and a bird would fly across, or a chicken would flap, or someone would say something, and that would trigger his awareness, and that would trigger a gamma burst, and that would trigger an insight. So the trick to insight is to be aware not just to what's in front of you, and that's why we've got to get out of our stress and distress, but by having our brain and our awareness open to possibility of what's going on, and I wonder what that means to me. And you'll find that we'll talk about this a lot more in the future.